Hello.
Hey Mitch, how you going?
Good mate.
All,
Oh,
all excited for this morning's topic?
oh, very much so. Yeah. Other than the fact that Oracle's got a breach that they don't want to talk about, but everyone's talking about it. That's my exciting headlines of the week.
Ah, right. Oracle breach.
Yeah.
Ah, something new, exciting, and different in the world of breaches.
Yeah. Oh, it's just the start. Well, 2025 is meant to be the year of the third party cloud breach. So, it's March, so it makes sense that we're already here.
Yeah, yeah, that does make sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. Your jacket's looking very fancy looking today, mate. I'm
Oh,
just in my sad old polo.
thanks, man. I thought I'd better get dressed up. I even got a haircut ready for today.
Oh, that's heaps good. That's heaps good. Oh, well, guess we should probably kick it off, shouldn't we?
I think we should, mate. I think we should.
Oh, awesome. Well, for those of you that don't know us, I'm Mitch Colton. I'm the managing director of Colton Computer Technologies, general IT geek, and data governance dude.
And
And
I'm Levi Thurston, managing director of NLT Insurance Brokers. uh, based in the Central West, and we look after in general insurance and risk management for businesses from SMEs through to large industrial.
oh, that sounds really exciting. What Levi didn't tell you there is he's a total insurance nerd, and what he doesn't know about insurance isn't worth knowing.
Yeah, yeah, that's that's the subtext.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess we'll start off with your headlines because I sort of cheated and did mine. What's happening in insurance at the moment that you guys are seeing that you want to get off your chest?
Big headline for us at the moment is CPS 230, which is the new legislation that we've been now given the heads up about. It's taking effect on the 1st of July this year. It's a soft roll on the 1st of July, but hard in place the following 1st of July. So 1st of July 2026 is going to be a very harsh awakening for a lot of businesses. Uh,
And for those of us that don't know, I do know, but for those of us that don't know, what is CPS 230 and which part of government land does it come from?
Yep. So CPS 230 is new regulations around the governance and implementation of cybersecurity awareness, cybersecurity protocols and systems for your businesses. It is being governed by APRA, which, for those that know, APRA is a federal government organisation that organises the regulation of the financial services industry along with ASIC. APRA are known for having like very strong governance over the insurance industry, banking, other financial services such as financial planning. So, with this new legislation, they've been given a very broad area to look at. And the first area that they're really going to be looking at is any business that works in, whether they're fully in it or they're subcontracting to or have any relation to financial services of any kind. So that could be contractors, subcontractors, affiliates. If you work in anything related to financial services in any capacity, then this legislation is going to become very
And
important for you.
I think it's really interesting to see how we're seeing government start to push standards through supply chain. The fact, so CPS 234, I've been familiar with for ages. So that's what I would call banking ISO, like ISO 27001. So it's all about information governance, whereas 230, as Levi's alluding to, is around operational risk and disruption, which is really good in a way that it's starting to move everything out of just being about IT keeping things secure. It's recognizing the fact that we need secure process, secure business practices. Holistically as an organization, we need to be on top of everything. And yeah, give I don't know. I say giving a shit about information security and data governance, but
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good to see that it's starting to happen. Yeah, so are you why is this the big headline for you, Levi? Are you thinking that you're going to see a whole lot of people start to care about things they didn't care about before, or are
yeah,
you
I
waiting for the
think so.
government
And
to come and
yeah, like that's my opinion. I think everyone needs to like this legislation should make anyone that's in business really care about, particularly the data they use, hold, carry, transfer, any sort of data they have, whether it's internal for staff, whether it's uh, for clients or even contractors. If you don't have a good process and systems in place for the information that you hold and use, uh, if you have a breach of any kind, or if you get the knock on the door from APRA or ASIC or any other government organisation saying, "How are you handling this data, and what are your processes and protocols?" Uh, if you don't have a good answer for that, they're going to come after you in not too uncertain terms. And the thing that we're seeing in this legislation is they have the rights and if not the obligation to fine you for not having correct protocols and processes in place for the data that you hold, use, and operate with.
I think we're really in a I don't know. I was at a Dell conference yesterday and they kept using the word inflection point. And I don't know how I feel about the term inflection point, but at the same time, I feel that um, I'm going to say it at crossroads, where the general business community is not quite at the point where they care about it, but you can see the writing on the wall. And we've been talking about this since we started doing Between Two Techies,
Yeah.
that the writing's on the wall and it's only a matter of time until everyone starts to care about all these things as much as probably they should, and certainly as much as us in the other on the inside of the industry care.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is legislation and governance actually probably done right. It's something that we've needed to have in place for a while, and it's just that shove to get business in line to where they really should be, and we don't want to be falling behind. So I think having this in place, it's a great first step uh, that needs to happen, and I think it should be a wake up call for a lot of businesses to go, I need to really take this seriously and I need to have a plan and a process in place that not just directors and senior staff know about, but that is communicated throughout all aspects of business to go from uh, the trainee that started yesterday through to senior management need to be made aware
Oh,
of,
totally.
of data security and governance.
And I guess I'm gonna jump in here with my new favorite soapbox, which is SMB 1001, which is the new shiny data governance information security standard that's actually grown out of Australia, but is a global standard now. And unlike and you've heard us before talk about ISO 27001 as the international standard for information security and data governance. It has it's not the highest bar for entry, but it certainly has a high bar for entry. And I would say it's not appropriate for all businesses. Whereas SMB 1001 is appropriate for all businesses and is a really, really good way to systematically approach meeting the requirements of CPS 230, meeting your overall IT security and data governance requirements in a practical and sensible way. It's got 5 tiers in it. You start off at bronze, you progress to silver, you progress to gold, and if you need to go into platinum and diamond, it's externally audited. But yes, very, very cost effective to get into, very pragmatic, and a good way to help try and meet some of the requirements of CPS 230. And keeping in mind too that a lot of this stuff is no one cares about it until it's all gone wrong. And when it goes wrong, you need to be able to show your insurer, the regulator, your clients, your suppliers that, hey, these were the systems and the processes that we had in place. This is what we were doing to mitigate the risk. Yeah, the bad things still happened, but it wasn't that we were sitting here going, it's all fine, we don't need to do anything. It's we've taken steps and the bad things still happened.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, with this legislation in particular, if you've put effort in pre an incident happening and you've got processes and protocols and your team knew what to do and the bad things still happen. If you've got, the insurance in place for cyber protection, you've got a clear process for staff to follow when an event does happen. If they've done everything right through that process and it's still happened, the regulator's not going to have issue with you because you've done everything right. You've followed the process, you've got good governance, you've got good process in place, you've insured against it. Where they're going to have an issue is when people don't have any of that and the thing goes wrong and they become aware of it. That's when they're going to use their newfound powers under this new legislation to go after businesses, where they have the right to fine businesses quite significant percentages of their revenue. So it's going to be interesting to see if maybe even that fear factor around the fines that they now have under this legislation, especially for SMEs. I think this could be enough to maybe scare people straight almost to go, okay, I need to take this seriously. I need to move forward. Especially if you're in professional industries, I think it should have been there long ago. But if this is the thing that scares you straight into going, look, I need cyber insurance, I need a process, I need a protocol, I need proper IT management. SMB 1001 is, in all honesty, a fabulous place for these businesses to be, like a framework to be looking at and going, I need to do that.
Um, we I think we suffer a lot in Australia, and I was talking to I was having lunch with some incident response guys yesterday, and the biggest problem we have in Australia is that we have we have a very strong she'll be right mate culture and a very strong it won't happen to me, and seeing CPS 230 start to push through supply chain, seeing more supply chain attacks, like the spam type breach we had last year, like the Oracle breach that Oracle's denying having, yet the people named in it are confirming that the credentials that have been exposed are valid. We're seeing more and more third parties, supply chain attacks, and the reality is that doesn't matter how well you have your house in order, it's going to happen. But until it happens to you or someone next to you, a lot of people don't take it seriously still, and unfortunately, too little, too late. And the and APRA and I dare say ASIC's going to jump on the bandwagon here, are going to turn around and go, sorry, that's not a good enough reason.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly it. They're going to say, look, you've been warned. Like, it's the amount of cases that we're seeing through the news, that attitude of, oh, it's not going to happen to me. Oh, it only happens to the big guys, this, that, and the other. The amount of attacks that we're seeing on smaller people and supply chain, like we're saying, like it's hitting one larger one, but then hitting, thousands of people that are under that through the supply chain. And you go, okay, you need to take this seriously because it is affecting you. Like in that particular breach, you might not have been affected at the moment, but who knows, 6 months down the track, they might have critical data for your business that you need, and they're going to exploit it and use it. So I think the time has passed for that she'll be right attitude, especially around this topic about what we're talking about, IT security and all of that. The world is a very small place, and that attitude doesn't have a place in the modern world relating to IT and security.
And one of our I guess esteemed colleagues in the cybersecurity world loves to talk about the fact that on the internet, there's no such thing as a good neighborhood and a bad neighborhood. There's no such thing as a good street and a bad street. You can't use the logic of, oh, it's all right, my office is next to the police station, nothing's going to happen to me, because all IP addresses on the internet are fair game and are all equal opportunity. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. That is a great analogy to use for this. That there's no safe neighborhood here, bad neighborhood there. Just the information's out there. Someone's going to try their best to try and get it from you.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So other than legislation and new laws coming through, Levi, what else is happening in insurance land that we care about?
Oh, let's have a look. We're seeing expansion from a few larger parties into the Australian market now on the IT side of things, which is great. Um,
And so what does
Solu-
that mean more?
Solution Underwriting has rebranded completely and are now completely under the banner of CFC. So they're now rebranded to being CFC, which, for those that don't know, CFC is the longest running and largest cyber IT insurer in the world. So they've now fully launched into the Australian market, and there's a lot of things working in that space which are going to be quite interesting in the next 6 to
And
12 months.
and does that really mean from a like small business point of view, more competition in the market's a good thing?
More
Um,
competition in the market's a good thing. So it'll be interesting to see how their new products hit the Australian market. Some of the products that they're now talking about, they already exist in the UK, EU markets. So that's their main area that they focus on. We are seeing expansion of emergence. They're working on a lot of stuff right now as well. They're also expanding their auxiliary covers outside of insurance for things like CyberSuite, where they're coming in and helping organisations with doing their internal processes, which is great. And they're offering that mainly to their own clientele that already have policies. There's a few other new players in the market that I guess they're testing the waters in the cyberspace as well. So I think that's interesting that we're starting to see a larger influx back into the cyber area again. It looks very different to what it did a few years ago when it was sort of the great exodus and we had,
two or three insurers, and that was it.
and that was it. Yeah, like there was a few smaller players, but it was all sort of retrospective covers where there was no emergency response or anything like that. It was just an old style, contact us once it's all done sort of
And,
policy.
and
And
still, and I think that's really worth diving into, Levi. The fact that one of the biggest reasons that you have cyber insurance, other than you want to have some money to bail you out at the end, is that you need incident response, and it's a very small market, and they pretty much all just work for insurers. And unless you know someone, you can't actually access it.
yeah, that's exactly it. So these guys work like they're massive firms, and uh, when you go down to Sydney and Melbourne and things like that, you'll see the large buildings with these names on them, and you go, oh, I wonder what they do, and then it turns out they do cyber response, cyber IT response.
Yeah, and it's really interesting in that they're pretty much all lawyers, and if they're not lawyers, they're trying to set up law firms inside, because the reality is, and like I alluded to earlier, I was having lunch with some of the guys yesterday, and it fundamentally comes down to and this was a story we were talking about yesterday. It comes down to, is it cheaper for the insurer or the companies involved to pay out the ransom or pay out the balance of the contract?
Mm.
And what they do is dependent on, are they going to get a contract renewal or are they going to get turfed at the end? So the scary thing is, at the end of all of this, a lot of it still comes down to good old fashioned contract law.
Yeah, yeah, it does, and yeah, and so much and that's the thing that we need to remember as well. Insurance policies are contracts; they're agreements that you come into. So with these cyber policies and having with the cyber response, it's interesting to see that it was for a little while there, even negotiating ransoms was considered a no. Like most places didn't want to do it at all. And now we're coming back into an area where we go, well, do we need to consider this? Do we need to consider the safest way forward is negotiating payment of ransom? And, what's the best outcome if we do that? What are the chances that we pay the ransom and they still release the data? Or,
Well, that was certainly, it's a few years old now, but the NHS in the UK got a hospital, or a couple of hospitals got, I think a district got cryptoed. And in the end, they had to pay the ransom because at the end of the day, they needed access to the patient records to continue to give care. And the quickest and most reliable way for them to do that was to pay the ransom.
was to pay the ransom, yeah.
And
And
and while that's not best practice, I mean, I think that opens up a really interesting topic, Levi, in that none of this is straightforward. It's all a risk conversation, and I mean the biggest thing that we see is, and again I'm going to get on the SMB 1001 bandwagon, is you need to be doing incident response like tabletop exercises. You need to be sitting down with your people, internal, external, like your team that you're going to use in a crisis, and you need to sit down and you go, okay, if this happens, how are we going to play it? Because it's not every incident is different. Yeah, look, there's a lot of commonality, but it'd be the same as you, mate. Every insurance claim's different.
yeah, exactly. Every incident, every response is different, and you need to sort of play it out and work out, well, what if this happened? What if, in this circumstance, if it went totally the opposite way, like how would we respond to that set of circumstance? So it's good to play that out. And I think like a big point to make as well is we need to start having the conversations about education to staff in particular. We need to be doing cyber awareness training, and not just like bare minimum once a year. And I would say that that's bare minimum. We should be doing.
It should be ongoing as well as a once a year thing.
Yeah, 100%. We should, maybe it's one large one per year, but there should be monthly or quarterly meetings with your teams going, okay,
And
we're
and
going
even
to
if
do
it's
some
just
basic training.
like, I mean, internally, we just have it as a standing item on our all hands. It's like if anyone's seen something or anything comes up, it takes 30 seconds and you just mention it. It's just, you can't, I mean, Mitch's 2 cents here, take it with a grain of salt, but you can't just have we do security because it's not a product. It's actually an embedded, we are secure and care about data governance in everything we do, and it's embedded into our company's culture, and it's just how you do things. So it's not like, it's not a bolt on at the end, it's just an embedded part of how you deliver your service.
Yeah, exactly. And part of it needs to be as well is remembering the human factor, is that we're not perfect, we make mistakes. There's a staff member that maybe is coming to work tired, hasn't thought about it, clicks on a link, boom, ransom. Or it creates a breach of some description.
Biggest thing is like, I need to send copies of high risk work licenses to another party, or I need to get a copy of a medical certificate or whatever.
Yeah.
The default action has been for many years, email it. It's like, please don't.
Yeah.
Look, if you want to do that, chuck it in OneDrive or Google Drive or Dropbox, do a password protected link, or lock it down to only the recipient. Like, then it's encrypted and it's fine. But
Yeah.
and none of those things are hard and they don't take very long to do, but it's just that is how we do it. And if you receive something from someone that is not in the way that you want it, you just go back to them and say, hey, actually, we can't accept that in that format. Can you please resend it?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's interesting that these days it seems like we're still having the same conversations from years ago about basic, just basic things about, think twice before clicking the link. If someone's changing their bank details and you get it via email, check it through a secondary source.
And that's a big thing. That's actually one of the policies. That's like the first standalone policy you have in SMB 1001 is payment verification policy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it needs to be standardized across the board. Like, you need to be checking it and verifying it through a second means.
Totally.
Yeah, it's, in all honesty, one of the largest cyber claims that you see is where someone hasn't done a secondary check. They've sent a payment off, didn't go to the recipient. It's gone to a
We see it.
third party bad actor. Yeah.
We see it again and again and again. And there's a reason that insurance asks about it specifically. It's generally called business email compromise is where it comes from. It's really low hanging fruit. There's, from a technical controls point of view, there's not a heap we can do about it. Like, we can block spammy things, we can put some flags to say this email's come from an external source. But at the end of the day, it's a good old fashioned con job. And that's where it's people, process, and technical controls that lead to good IT and cyber hygiene.
Yeah, absolutely. And these days, I mean, if you're in business, I mean, most businesses for years have taken out theft covers for their contents and their goods and their stock and things like that. We work so much in the cyberspace. Why aren't businesses insuring their data and their IT processes? Like, why aren't they taking out cyber insurances? It is the modern theft protection. So, I mean, go out there and get it. And especially with the new legislation, it's going to be a question asked where they're going to say, do you have this insured? And if you're answering no, well, there's not going to be much of a reason for them to go, well, why not? Like, what's your reasoning for not insuring it? You should be insuring it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see that space and see how the legislation plays out once it's in effect from July 1.
We had the budget come out the other night, and I heard some people crying, going, "Oh, there's been no extra money for cyber," and it's sort of like, there wasn't any money for cyber before. Why would there be extra money for cyber now? I think the government's sort of sitting back a lot, and I say the government as a whole arching state and Fed amorphous lump. They're doing a lot of things themselves to secure and improve their supply chains. As Levi opened with, CPS 230, 234 is just getting ratcheted up, and they're giving things more teeth. OAIC, which is the Privacy Commissioner, has been given more enforcement powers, so more teeth again. But they recognise that, and there's some high level early talks about starting to move into picking some standards to start enforcing and rolling out more broadly. But the market needs to start to take this stuff seriously, and I think that's the approach Gov's taking, is that you guys need to get your house in order, and if you deal with us, your house has to be in order. Therefore, get organised.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Make sure, clean and tidy house, basically, for your business, your processes, your protocols, and your insurances. So make sure it's all in place, and get good IT support as well. You know what I mean?
Why would you get good IT support, Levi? No one needs IT. It just works. Same reason I don't need a good insurance broker, because I just buy my insurance online. That's perfect.
Yeah, and it just magically works. So yeah. Mate, so what's new in your world? What's new in IT world besides the Oracle incident?
Another day, another breach. Courts got hacked. 9,000 documents got ripped out of there. For better or worse, people like general pop are getting used to seeing a breach or two breaches in the news every week. It's becoming normalized. And while that's good from an awareness standpoint, it's also bad from a desensitization standpoint.
Complacency about, it's just the normal, and I'm just going to carry on as as per previously, which I don't think is the right attitude.
And that's sort of the thing, is that it's like, and this is an awful analogy, but it's the best one I can come up with. Every single plane accident, plane crash, or near miss makes the national news every single time without fail, unless it is a very bad car accident or it is the stats of a long weekend. We never see car accidents in the national news. and I think we're still in the early days of the news cycle from a data breach standpoint, where they're still interesting.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that is a problem is you as an individual feel pretty helpless and pretty powerless,
Mm.
because like, oh well, it happened, I can't do anything about it. The end. Um,
Yeah. And the thing is, like, there is now, and the way the insurance industry is moving is even individuals now have opportunity to be protected in these circumstances. Like there are insurers now that are offering personal cyber liability, where it's protecting you if you as an individual, as a private individual, get, hacked, email compromise, cyberbullying, those sort of things. There are options out there now that are available to the broad market. So
Been much uptake of those? Like, do people care about them yet?
it's so green that I think it's just an awareness thing. Like there's not enough community awareness around them. I really think there should be. But on top of that though, like there's options now where businesses can actually take out like a group personal cyber liability for their staff. So there's an option for that where it costs near nothing per user. I think at base point for that group one, I think starts at about $22 per person that you have on staff. And it covers them for personal cyber liability. Like if they, as an individual outside of the business protocol, has a cyber incident, they're covered.
How has an industry, I guess, and I know this is meant to be my time talking about IT things. What are the stats at the moment for insurance uptake, like cyber uptake across businesses and individuals? Is it getting to a point where it's hit critical mass yet?
No, it's gearing for the business stuff. It's gearing up, and we are seeing major uptick in it. And I think that from a business standpoint, I think a lot of industry bodies are talking to their affiliates and people who are in their industry groups, basically saying you need to take this seriously. You need to go out and get cyber. And we are noticing quite a significant like uptick in people going, hey, I think I need to consider cyber insurance. And I think that's a positive thing. I think we need to see a lot more of that. It needs to be spoken about a lot more in these associations and groups to say, hey, you need to be aware of this and we need to, organise for you to be protected. Because most businesses, when they have a cyber breach, they're not recovering. Like if you don't have insurance, your chances of recovery are near zero.
I think the other issue is there's a lot of people that just don't talk about it, sweep it under the rug, make it go away, and pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I know last year when we were dealing with the privacy commissioner, they were getting very upset about secondary breaches. And so what a secondary breach is there is an incident, and let's say Levi gets hacked. Levi goes, I don't want to talk about this. I don't think it's going anywhere. I'm just going to make this go away. And then 6 or 12 months down the track, all of a sudden, some of my information ends up being breached. And the privacy commissioner is looking at it because I've done the right thing and I've disclosed and what have you. And they go, well, the information that caused you to get breached came from a breach here, but you're not directly connected to the breach here. There was someone in the middle. And pretty quickly they work out, that someone was Levi. Then they get very upset because if Levi dealt with his breach properly, my breach would have never have happened.
Yeah.
And they're getting quite toothy around that.
Yeah, they are. And that's part of this whole new legislation stuff as well, is that these secondary breaches, if you're not reporting it, and that legislation about reporting is already in. It's been in for a number of years now. The first iteration of it came in 2019. So it's not fresh off the presses news. It's been around for more than a few days. And people need to be aware they have a obligation to report breaches.
I guess the other things we're seeing in OT, other than too many breaches, because we went down that rabbit hole. we're starting to see some uptake in like people wanting what we would call managed detection and response services. So it's like your 24/7 monitoring might be referred to as SOC, etc. That sort of is in a response a bit to all these third-party supply chain things happening. And all of a sudden there's compromised credentials because of an upstream provider, and we only see that in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And of course, no one's looking in the middle of the night. So that's the third party thing. Um, we're putting a lot of time into SMB 1001 at the moment. That's probably the biggest, shiniest thing in the IT space at the moment. I mean that not you can't call it the elephant in the room, but everyone is talking about AI, and more AI.
Yeah.
The thing that's really interesting is everyone's talking about all the cool things and all the productivity gains you can get out of AI. And look, it's awesome, but there's not a lot of talk about the guardrails and the security and the safety and the data governance. And it's very much like it's the pyramid of, if you get your systems right, you get your data governance right, you get the guardrails in, then AI is awesome. But I think we're going to see a lot of breaches in the next 12, 18 months come out of AI getting rolled out and chatbots getting rolled out. Certainly, like, both breaches internally, but I'm putting money on it here in
Yeah.
public record that we're going to see public facing chatbots that haven't been set up properly and have access to internal data that they shouldn't. And people are going to be asking the chatbot questions. And it's going to be just like happened to the US government the other day, which is someone gets added to a secure platform that wasn't meant to be added, and boom, breach. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that sort of stuff happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with the way a lot of these AIs are becoming readily available to public use. What's that old saying, Mitch? If you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Oh, and there's a lot of that. And I think too, as we're moving away from we're moving away from a centralized IT security model very much to a user model, like the end user model. So the reason I say that is, like, in the old days, you needed access to a file or a folder. You went and put in a support ticket, or you asked your system administrator. You asked IT essentially, hey, can I have access to this folder? IT went to whoever the person that was the approver and went, hey, Levi wants access to this folder. Is he allowed to have access to this folder? And they went, yay or nay. What's happening now is, like Microsoft Teams is a good example. I mean, SharePoint's a good example, same as Google Groups, which is Levi's the owner of his group. He can invite whoever he wants.
Hmm.
And look, you can set up guardrails around that to say Levi can only invite people within the organization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But IT's job is very much become an advisory guardrail framework type
Yeah,
position, because we're empowering end users and line managers to do more, which is fantastic. But we need to make sure that they've got the skills, they've got the training, they understand the risk of and the old saying comes, with great power comes great responsibility, and I just don't think we're doing that education piece really well at the moment.
yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, there needs to be a lot more education discussion around frameworks and protections. Well, as you said, guardrails, especially around AI, because um, it's becoming such a big topic. I think as a society, we are running the gauntlet a bit with not protecting things that we should be.
Oh, totally. Totally. So I guess closing thoughts, mate. What are you expecting to see before we get together again in 6 or 8 weeks' time?
I'm hoping we're going to see a significant increase in talking around cyber securities and protections, that people are going to be very aware that CPS 230, when it fully takes effect, that people are going to be, okay, I'm prepared, or I'm about to get prepared, and before we hit the hard deadline next year in 26, I will have all the processes and protocols in place. I'm hoping. That's probably like a hope and a wish.
And do you think people are going to be proactive on that, or you reckon we're going to wait to see the first couple of test cases?
I Some people are going to be proactive, but I think the majority are going to get a bit scared and a bit frightened when the first test cases come through, and we start seeing how big these fines and regulatory penalties are that APRA now have under under the new legislative powers. So
Yeah, cool.
yeah.
And I guess my hope would be I'm looking forward to seeing the next generation of cyber insurance questionnaire attestation forms come out. I'm looking forward to seeing insurers and regulators starting to ask for certification standards, like whether that's an SMB 1001, whether that's ISO 27001. I think we've been skirting around risk for long enough, and I want to start seeing some actual. I know that you're to this level, therefore I am happy to do business with you. I unfortunately I don't think I'm going to get there in the next quarter, but I'm blissfully optimistic that we will be.
I reckon if we could get even a few steps further with that in the next 12 months, I think that'd be, compared to where things have been and where they're currently at, I think that's a major step forward. If that can happen in 12 months, that's fantastic.
Awesome. Oh, thanks, mate. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Well, thanks, mate. See you.
Bye.